You may know Fjallraven for their Konkan backpacks, their keb trousers, or even their Kaika trekking packs. But they're also rather good at making tents, like this one. Now, new for Spring/Summer 24 is the Abisko Friluft 2, this blue guy right here, which is a little bit of a move away from their traditional tent market, which is generally catered for the 4-season market. And they've moved to a 3-season sort of appropriate design here that's a little bit more backpacking appropriate. And they've also moved over to an inner pitch first design, which is a move away from most of their designs, which are either dome style or tunnel, which are generally all in one. So stick with us as we go through this tent and we tell you a little bit more about it. So let's get into it. What is the Abisko Friluft 2? Well, first and foremost, it's a lightweight 2-person tent that is aimed around sort of warm weather camping and sort of 3-season use, with a real highlight on breathability, which we'll go into a little bit later with the extra ventilation that you get in this tent. It's an inner pitch first, which theoretically means that it is a little bit more versatile so that you can use it without the throw over fly on those warm, dry nights. Probably not in the UK, unfortunately. Or you can run it with the Flysheet as we've got on here, and it's still highly ventilated and nice and protective. Coming in at just over 2 kilos, it's still nice and lightweight, so you can use it on those longer backpacking trips, especially if you have a friend to share it with. On that note, it is a little bit tighter in terms of space, as most 2-person tents are, if there are 2 of you sharing the same space, especially if there are 2 beds in there. We've got it set up at the moment with just one setup, but we'll also show what it's like with 2 mats in there. They will kind of expect you to go top and tail rather than head to head, just because that allows for a little bit more space if you're on a tapered mat. You do have 2 porches, so if there are 2 of you in there, you each get your own, you get your own entrance, you're not clambering over each other. But this priority of ventilation makes it really great for summer backpacking. That's why they've rated it as a 3-season rather than a 4-season tent. Let's talk through the main components first and then get a little more into the nitty-gritty of some of the smaller features. We'll start with the Flysheet. The main bulk of the fabric used by the Flysheet on the Abisko Friluft 2 is Fjallraven's own 20 denier lightweight triple rip sil fabric. Quite a mouthful. But this tear resistant and extremely lightweight fabric will pack down to very little and weighs next to nothing. It's made from 100% polyamide and has a hydrostatic head of 3000 millimeters. Should give you good peace of mind even during those wet and windy nights, which if you're using it in the UK, you're probably going to have a few of. Moving over to the inner, that is then split into 2 main components, with the main fabric being a lightweight yet durable 15 denier ripstop nylon made from 100% polyamide. The fabric is also finished with a PFC-free DWR to help shed any rogue rain or any condensation droplets that might find their way there. The other main component of the inner is the lightweight 20 denier no-seam polyester mesh, which provides fantastic ventilation and air circulation along with the vents in the fly that are accessible via zips from the inner. The no-seam mesh is fine enough to keep even the smallest of unwanted beasties out, meaning that you can enjoy a peaceful night under the stars should you wish. The floor of the inner is constructed from a durable 40 denier 100% polyamide PU coated fabric that's tough enough to cope with the general wear and tear of regular use without impacting the tent's overall pack size. We would still generally recommend you use a footprint underneath the tent, but it is a little bit more durable than some of its competitors, which we see as a little bit of a tick. It does add a little bit of weight, but it means that the bathtub of your tent is going to be that little bit more durable. Another thing that really makes this tent stand out is the PU coating on the floor, which provides a hydrostatic head rating of 10,000 millimeters, which goes above and beyond what most other tent brands will put on a tent of this spec. And that 10,000 millimeter hydrostatic head will protect you and your belongings from raking up with a soggy bottom. In the words of Mary Berry, you don't want a soggy bottom. That 10,000 mil hydrostatic head is particularly notable as most similar tents will have somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000. So bumping up to a 10,000 mil hydrostatic head is pretty fantastic. One very important component of any tent are the poles. And Fjallraven haven't scrimped here, they've gone for DAC featherlight poles, which are created from lightweight and extremely strong aluminium. They're a 9.3mm diameter and feature a crossover construction allowing the tent to support itself, providing extra stability and strength in windy conditions. That's also the reason that this tent is freestanding, so if you take the Flysheet off, you can still use it by clipping the poles to the inner. The poles have an internal elasticated cord which is made from a high quality silicon, which is flexible and reliable even in cold temperatures. So if you do use this tent in colder temperatures, you're not going to risk snapping that elastic unless you're really going for it, which is another carryover from Fjallraven's knowledge on 4-season tents. Moving on to the main features of the Friluft 2, you start with 2 entrances to the tent, one on either side, so the entrances mirror each other. Now, one really nice thing about that is that if you're in the tent by yourself, you have a wet entrance and a dry entrance, or you have an extra porch to store your kit, or if there's 2 of you, you each get your own entrance. You can also fully fold back both sides of the door, which is a really nice thing to be able to do to sit there with your morning coffee. Now, these roll back with toggles that are on the outside of the tent. Same thing goes for the inners with the mesh. You can either roll them back nicely, or like I'm going to do here, just save a little bit of time, tuck them into one of the 2 pockets that are on the inside of this tent. So you can tuck them in, or more neatly, doing that, roll them back. You have the options there, so if it's just a quick and dirty, you can just stuff them into the pocket, or if you want to make it look nice and neat, or you're going to be there for a little bit longer, you can roll them back so they stay out of the way and they're a little bit neater that way. Speaking of those pockets, for storage you get 4 mesh pockets inside to help keep you and your tent buddies' gear well organised. 1 on opposite corners, which is what we've stuffed the door into, and 2 on the ceiling. Useful for valuables or a head torch to light up your evening, whilst the 2 vestibules next to them provide ample storage for any wet kit, your rucksacks, so you're not bringing extra things inside the tent. A nice little added feature inside on the inner of the tent is that you do get an integrated line that you can either string up a lantern or you can hang wet kit up to dry, which is a nice little quality of life feature that you don't see on all tents. It also helps tension the inner properly so that it doesn't get a little bit saggy. For ventilation, you get 2 vents, one on either end of the Friluft. You also get multi-position zips on the doors, which will help with that ventilation. But the nice thing about the inner is that you can access the vents via the zips that are on the mesh, and then open them up without having to go outside the tent, so that you don't have to get out your sleeping bag burrito. And then you can also have a little sneak peek to see what's going on outside. Around the outside of the tent, you get 8 1.7mm reflective Dyneema guy lines. So this tent really shouldn't go anywhere if it is blowing a hoolie outside. And those reflective guys are really useful when approaching your tent at night, so you shouldn't trip over them. Especially because there are 8 of them, you've got 8 potential trip hazards. In combination with that, you get a set of DAC V-pegs, which are light and strong aluminium. They include a Dyneema cord loop at the top of each peg, which makes pulling them out of the ground much easier. All of the zips used on the tent are premium quality, all with auto lock on the zips, so they won't start creeping undone in strong winds. So there we go, something a little bit different from Fjallraven, a little bit more in line with potentially some of their competitors, but a few differences that make it a little bit more Fjall than some others. If you'd like to shop the Abisko Friluft 2, there'll be a link down in the description. And as always, if you have any queries, questions about this tent or anything else, if you pop a comment down below, we'll be sure to answer it for you. We'll see you in the next one.